Princess Zarathik stood in the great hall of the Galactic Concord. Her tall, thin body stayed perfectly still. Her skin looked like blue crystal in the bright lights. She did not let her face show any feelings. Around her, beings from many different worlds watched and waited. The war had lasted 300 years. The Voidborn Empire and the humans had fought until both sides were bleeding and tired. Millions had died. Whole planets were now empty rocks floating in space. The princes knew that if the fighting went on, both races might disappear forever. "The terms are clear," said Ambassador Thorn from the human side. He was old and gray, with deep lines around his eyes. "A marriage bond between our peoples. One of royal blood from the Voidborn Empire. One chosen representative from humanity." Zarathik had known this day would come. Her father, the Emperor, had already agreed. The princess would marry a human to seal the peace. She had expected this since she was young, but she had also expected to marry someone from her own people, someone who understood her world and her ways. "The human chosen is Marcus Chen," Ambassador Thorn continued. "He is 28 years old. He works as a naval engineer on the frontier world, Kepler 442b. He has agreed to this union for the good of both our peoples." The princess had seen pictures of this Marcus Chen. He looked ordinary for a human. Brown hair, brown eyes, not very tall. His hands looked rough from work. In the pictures, he was always smiling a gentle smile. Humans lived such short lives compared to her people. She was already 150 years old, but still young for a Voidborn. This human would grow old and die while she was still in the early part of her life. "I accept these terms," Zarathik said. Her voice was clear and strong. "For the sake of peace." The wedding was planned for Haven's Rest, a space station that belonged to no single world. It floated between the territories of many different species. The station was huge, with rings that spun slowly to make artificial gravity. Ships from dozens of worlds came to watch the ceremony. Zarathik arrived 3 days before the wedding. Her ship, the Void's Grace, was sleek and dark like all Voidborn vessels. As she walked through the docking bay, she saw human ships for the first time up close. They looked different from what she expected. The metal was strange, almost like it was alive. The design seemed simple, but somehow felt very old. Her rooms on the station were nice, but felt strange. Everything was made for many different types of beings to use. The air was a mix that all species could breathe. The gravity was set to a level that most could handle. Nothing felt like home. On the day before the wedding, she met Marcus Chen for the first time. He was waiting in the meeting room when she walked in. He stood up quickly and gave a small bow. "Your Highness," he said, "I am honored to meet you." Up close, he looked just like his pictures. Average height for a human, maybe a little shorter than she was. His clothes were simple and clean. His brown hair was cut short, but his eyes were different than she expected. In the pictures, they looked normal. In person, they seemed deeper, like they had seen much more than a 28-year-old should have seen. "You may call me Zarathik," she said. "We will be married soon. There is no need for such formal words between us." Marcus smiled that gentle smile she had seen in the pictures. "Thank you. You can call me Marcus. I hope this arrangement will not be too difficult for you." She was surprised by his words. Most beings would have been nervous to meet someone from the royal family. Most would have talked about honor and duty. But Marcus seemed calm, almost sad. "This marriage will bring peace," she said. "That is what matters." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "Peace is what matters." They talked for an hour. Marcus asked about her home world and her interests. He told her about his work with ship engines and his life on the frontier. He was easy to talk to, but Zarathik felt like he was holding something back. There was something about him that did not match what she knew about humans. The wedding ceremony took place in the main hall of Haven's Rest. Beings from across the galaxy came to watch. The crystalline hegemony sent their best diplomats. The Hive Collective was there with their insect-like queens. Even the ancient watchers came, their four eyes glowing softly as they observed. The ceremony mixed traditions from both cultures. Zarathik wore the traditional silver robes of her people. Marcus wore a simple black suit that humans used for important occasions. They spoke vows in both languages, promising to work together for peace. But the most important part was the life bond ritual of the Voidborn. This was when the minds of the bride and groom would touch briefly through telepathy. For Voidborn, it was a way to make sure the marriage was real and true. Zarathik had done this ritual before in practice. She knew what to expect. A gentle touching of thoughts, a sharing of simple emotions, nothing more. She reached out with her mind toward Marcus as the ritual required. At first, everything seemed normal. She felt his thoughts on the surface, calm, peaceful, a little nervous. But then her mind went deeper, just for a moment. What she found there made her step back in shock. It was like touching the edge of an ocean. A vast, deep, endless ocean of power that seemed to have no bottom. For just an instant, she felt something so strong and terrible that her mind could barely understand it. It was controlled, held back by an enormous effort of will. But it was there Marcus reached out quickly to steady her. "Are you all right?" he asked. His voice was gentle and worried, just like before. But now she had felt what was underneath. "I am fine," she said, but her hands were shaking. "Just tired from the long ceremony." Marcus looked at her with those deep brown eyes. For a moment, she thought she saw something ancient looking back at her. Then he smiled that gentle smile again, and the moment passed. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for doing this, for choosing peace." The celebration went on late into the station's night cycle. Many beings came to wish them well. But Zarathik could not forget what she had felt in that brief moment when their minds touched. Whatever Marcus Chen was, he was not just an ordinary human engineer from a frontier world. As they walked back to their new shared quarters, Zarathik looked at her new husband. He seemed so normal, so harmless. But she had felt the ocean of power hidden behind his kind eyes. She began to wonder what else the humans had not told the galaxy about themselves. The marriage was done. The peace was signed. But Zarathik had a feeling that her real discoveries were just beginning. 6 months had passed since the wedding. Zarathik and Marcus lived together on the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge. The ship traveled between different worlds, helping to make sure the peace treaty was working well. They had separate rooms but shared meals and spent time together each day. At first, everything seemed normal. Marcus worked long hours in the engine rooms, fixing problems and making improvements to the ship's systems. He was polite and kind to everyone on the crew. He never complained and always seemed willing to help with any problem. But Zarathik began to notice strange things. Marcus never seemed tired. The other engineers worked 8-hour shifts and then needed rest. Marcus often worked for 18 hours straight without stopping. When Zarathik asked him about it, he just smiled and said he had always been good at staying awake when needed. He also never got sick. During their 3rd month on the ship, a virus spread through the crew. Humans, Voidborn, and other species all caught it. Everyone except Marcus. The ship's doctor, a friendly being called Dr. Kellex, was puzzled. "Humans usually get sick from this virus," Dr. Kellex said. But Marcus shows no signs of it at all. There were other small things too. Marcus could lift heavy equipment that usually took 3 people to move. When the ship's artificial gravity failed in one section, Marcus walked around normally while everyone else floated helplessly. Food that was too hot or too cold for others never seemed to bother him. Zarathik might have thought these were just normal differences between humans and other species. But she had studied human biology during her preparation for marriage. Nothing she had learned explained what she was seeing. The truth became impossible to ignore during the pirate attack. They were traveling through the neutral zone when 3 pirate ships surrounded them. The pirates demanded that the Harmony's Edge surrender all its valuable cargo. When Captain Torres refused, the pirates attacked. The ship shook as energy weapons hit the shields. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the corridors. Hull breach in Engineering Section 7, came the announcement over the speakers. All personnel evacuate immediately. But Marcus was already in Engineering Section 7. Zarathic watched the security cameras from the bridge as the pirates cut through the hull and entered the ship. 12 armed pirates in full battleships poured into the corridor where Marcus was working. What happened next, mate? Zarathic stared at the screen in shock. Marcus did not run. He did not hide. He did not even reach for a weapon. Instead, he moved. The security cameras could barely follow him. One moment he was standing by a control panel. The next moment he was among the pirates, moving like lightning. His hands struck out faster than the eye could see. Pirates flew through the air as if hit by explosions. One pirate fired an energy rifle at Marcus from close range. The beam should have killed him instantly. Instead, Marcus caught the beam somehow, holding the deadly energy in his bare hand for a moment before throwing it back. The pirate's own weapon exploded. Another pirate swung a vibroblade at Marcus's head. The blade could cut through steel. Marcus caught it with 2 fingers and crushed it like paper. Then he grabbed the pirate and threw him so hard that the being went flying through a metal wall in less than 2 minutes. All 12 pirates were unconscious on the floor. Marcus stood among them, not even breathing hard. His work clothes were not even torn. When the security team arrived, they found Marcus calmly tying up the unconscious pirates with cables. "They are alive," he told the security chief. "Just sleeping. They will wake up in a few hours with bad headaches." Later, when the ship was safe and the pirates were locked up, Zarathic went to find Marcus. He was back in the engineering section, fixing the damage from the attack. He was using his bare hands to bend thick metal beams back into shape. "Marcus," she said, "we need to talk." He looked up from his work. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "I watched the security recordings," she said. "I saw what you did to those pirates." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the metal beam he had been reshaping. "What did you see?" "I saw you move faster than should be possible. I saw you catch an energy beam with your hand. I saw you throw armed beings through metal walls without weapons of your own." Marcus nodded slowly. The adrenaline reaction can make humans very strong in dangerous situations. "No," Zarathic said firmly. "I have studied human biology. Adrenaline does not allow someone to catch energy beams. Adrenaline does not let someone tear through titanium steel bulkheads with bare hands." She stepped closer to him. "What are you, Marcus? What are humans really?" Marcus looked at her with those deep brown eyes. For a moment, she saw something very old and very sad looking back at her. "Would you believe me if I said I was just a man who wants peace? I do not know what I would believe anymore," she said. "But I know that you are not what you seem to be." That night, Zarathic could not sleep. She kept thinking about what she had seen. She began to research human history more carefully, using the ship's computer systems to access records from across the galaxy. What she found troubled her even more. Humans claimed to have come from a destroyed world called Earth. They said they were refugees who had fled when their home was destroyed by a natural disaster. But when Zarathic looked for proof of this Earth, she found very little. There were no detailed records of human civilization before they appeared in galactic space 500 years ago. There were no ruins of their homeworld for scientists to study. There were no artifacts from their early culture in any museum. Not more strange was human genetic diversity. When a species spread across many worlds from a single home planet, their genes usually showed signs of that spread. But human genes suggested something different. They suggested that all humans came from a very small group of people, and that this had happened much more recently than 500 years ago. It was as if humans had appeared in the galaxy suddenly, with a ready-made story about their past that could not be proven. The next day, they attended a formal dinner with diplomats from the crystalline hegemony. The hegemony beings looked like living gems and were known for being very proud of their ancient culture. They often looked down on younger species. During the dinner, one of the hegemony lords drank too much fermented crystal wine. He became loud and rude. When Marcus politely disagreed with something the lord said about trade policies, the lord became angry. How dare a primitive ape question the wisdom of the hegemony? The lord shouted, "Your species crawled out of caves yesterday. You know nothing of civilization." The room became very quiet. All the diplomats stopped talking and looked uncomfortable. Marcus remained calm. "I apologize if I offended you," he said in his gentle voice. "I was only sharing a different viewpoint." But something else happened while Marcus spoke. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in just a few seconds. Every glass on the table developed tiny cracks. The crystal chandelier above their heads began to sing with a high, thin note that made everyone's teeth ache. Marcus's voice stayed perfectly polite and calm. But when Zarathik looked at his hands, she saw that he was gripping the arms of his chair. The thick metal armrests had finger-shaped dents pressed deep into them. "Please excuse me," Marcus said, standing up smoothly. "I think I need some fresh air." As soon as he left the room, the temperature returned to normal. The glasses stopped cracking. The chandelier became silent. The crystalline lord looked around the room with wide, frightened eyes. "What was that?" he whispered. "What just happened?" No one had an answer. That night, Zarathik confronted her husband in their quarters. "Something is very wrong here," she said. "Humans are not what they claim to be. You are not what you claim to be." Marcus sat by the viewport, looking out at the stars. "What do you want me to tell you?" he asked quietly. "The truth," she said. "What are humans? Where do you really come from? What happened to your real homeworld?" Marcus was silent for a long time. Outside the viewport, distant suns burned cold and bright in the darkness of space. Finally, he spoke. "Some truths are dangerous, Zarathik. Some truths could change everything." "I am not afraid," she said. Marcus turned to look at her. In his eyes, she saw that deep sadness again, and something else. Something that might have been fear. "Maybe you should be," he said. Zarathik knew she needed answers. The ship's computer systems did not have enough information about human history. She needed to go somewhere with older, deeper records. There was only one place in the galaxy that kept records of everything that had ever happened. The Eternal Archive. It took 3 weeks to arrange permission to visit. The archive was controlled by the Watchers, a species so old that most others had forgotten when they first appeared. They had been watching and recording galactic history for millions of years. They rarely interfered with other species, but they remembered everything. The archive was built into a massive asteroid bed, floated in empty space between star systems. As their shuttle approached, Zarathik could see the countless towers and domes that covered the rock's surface. Each building contained libraries, data storage, and endless records of the past. Marcus had wanted to come with her, but she told him she needed to make this trip alone. He did not argue, but she saw worry in his eyes when she left. The main library was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above. Floating platforms carried visitors between levels that seemed to stretch forever. Holographic displays showed information in hundreds of different languages and formats. Zarthek found the information desk and spoke to a young watcher assistant. Watchers were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 large black eyes. They moved slowly and spoke in quiet, careful voices. "I need to research the history of humanity," Zarthek said. "Specifically, their origins and early development." The assistant's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "That is an unusual request. Most researchers ask about humanity's current activities, not their past. Please follow me." They took a floating platform up many levels to a restricted section. Here, the assistant left her with an elderly watcher librarian whose 4 eyes were clouded with great age. "You wish to know about human origins," the old watcher said. It was not a question. "You are the void-born princess who married one of them." "Yes," Zarethik said. "I need to understand what my husband really is." The old watcher was silent for a long time. All 4 eyes studied her carefully. "Child," he finally said, "there are some things that are kept secret for good reasons." "I must know," she insisted. "Something is not right. The records do not match what I have observed." The watcher's shoulders sagged. "You are bonded to one of them?" When she nodded, all 4 of his eyes widened in alarm. "Child, you must understand, humans are not what they claim to be." The librarian led her to a private viewing chamber. The walls came alive with holographic displays showing star charts, historical timelines, and ancient records. Humans did not flee from a destroyed homeworld. The watcher began. "That story is a lie they tell to explain their presence in galactic civilization." Images appeared in the air around them. A blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. Cities that gleamed like jewels. Ships that moved between the stars. This was Earth, the watcher said. Their true homeworld. It was not destroyed by natural disaster. It was not destroyed at all. Zarethik stared at the images. "But the records say what humans want them to say," the watcher interrupted. "We watchers remember the truth. Earth still exists. It is forbidden's territory now, surrounded by warning beacons that no ship dares to cross." New images appeared. Massive fleets of dark ships. Battles that tore apart moons. Beings of incredible power fighting across the surface of worlds. 700 years ago, humanity fought their last war, the watcher explained. But it was not a war against another species. It was a war against themselves. The images showed humans, but they looked different from the humans Zarethek knew. These beings moved with impossible grace and speed. They fought with weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Some appeared to control energy with their bare hands. Others moved through space without ships, protected only by their own power. What happened to them? Zarethik whispered. They were changing, the watcher said, evolving into something beyond what any species had ever become. They could reshape matter with their thoughts. They could travel between stars by willing themselves across space. Some began to live forever. The images showed the war growing worse. Planets cracking under the force of human battles. Stars dimming as the fighting spread through space. Reality itself seemed to bend and break around the combatants. The war was called the Awakening War, the watcher continued, because humanity was awakening into godhood. But not all of them wanted to become gods. A new set of images appeared. Humans arguing in great assemblies. Some wanted to continue the evolution, to become beings of pure power who could control the universe. Others feared what they were becoming and wanted to stop. The war lasted 50 years, the watcher said. When it ended, the faction that wanted to remain human had won. But barely. And they had learned something terrible about themselves. What did they learn? That they could not stop the change through normal means. The evolution was built into their genes, their minds, their very souls. They would either become gods, or they would have to leave everything behind. The final images showed fleets of ships leaving Earth, hundreds of thousands of vessels carrying millions of humans into exile. But these were not the same beings who had fought the war. Somehow, they looked normal again. They looked like the humans Zarathic knew. They chose exile, the Watcher said. But more than that, they chose to lock away their true nature. They created mental and physical barriers within themselves, sealing away the power that would have made them gods. That is impossible, Zarathic said. No being can simply choose to become weaker. Not weaker, the Watcher corrected. Restrained. The power is still there, hidden behind walls they built in their own minds. But it is always there, waiting. The displays faded, leaving them in dim light. The old Watcher turned all four eyes to Zarathic. "This is why your husband feels different," he said. "This is why you sensed something vast when you touched his mind during the bonding ceremony. Every human carries the potential for godhood locked away inside them." Zarathic felt cold. "How do you know about the bonding ceremony?" "We Watchers see much," he said. "We've been watching your marriage with great interest. And great concern." "Concern about what?" The Watcher moved closer to her. "Child, the barriers that humans built to contain their power are not perfect. Strong emotions can weaken them. Great stress can crack them. And love," he paused, studying her face. "Love can break them completely." Zarathic stood up quickly. "You are saying that my marriage could be dangerous?" "I am saying that your marriage could change the galaxy," the Watcher replied. "If your husband's barriers fail, if his true nature emerges, he could reshape reality itself. And if other humans see this happen, they might choose to break their own barriers as well." The thought terrified her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you have the right to know what you have married," the Watcher said. "And because something is coming that might force the choice upon them anyway." "What do you mean?" The old Watcher moved to another control panel. New displays appeared, showing dark shapes moving in the space between galaxies. "We have detected signals," he said. "Ancient enemies that humanity thought they had left behind when they went into exile. The Devourers are returning." Zarathic had heard stories of the Devourers. Ancient mechanical intelligences that had once consumed entire civilizations before disappearing into dark space millions of years ago. "If the Devourers return," the Watcher said, "the current galactic powers will not be able to stop them. Only beings with the power of gods could face such enemies." He turned to look at her with all four eyes. "Your husband and his people will have to choose. Let the galaxy burn, or break the chains they put on themselves and become the gods they feared to be." Zarathic left the Eternal Archive with her mind spinning. During the long journey back to the Harmony's edge, she thought about everything the Watcher had told her. Part of her wanted to believe it was all lies or mistakes. But too many things made sense now. Marcus's strange strength, his ability to work without rest, the way reality seemed to bend around him when he was angry. All of it could be explained if he was a god pretending to be mortal. When she returned to their ship, she found Marcus in their quarters. He was sitting by the viewport again, staring out at the stars. He looked sad and worried. "How was your research trip?" he asked without turning around. Zarathic realized he had always known where she was going and why. "You know what I learned," she said. Marcus nodded slowly. "The Watchers have good memories. Better than most. Is it true?" she asked. "All of it?" Marcus was quiet for a very long time. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed brighter than usual, as if they were responding to his mood. "Yes," he finally said. "It is true. You are all gods pretending to be mortal?" "We are mortals pretending we cannot be gods," he corrected. "There is a difference." Zarathic sat down across from him. "Why did you agree to marry me?" Was it really for peace? Marcus turned to look at her. His brown eyes seemed deeper than ever, like looking into infinity. The marriage was real, he said. The peace was real. But you were right to wonder about our motives. He stood and walked to the viewport, placing his hand against the transparent aluminum. Where his palm touched, the material began to glow faintly. The bridge of the Harmony's edge was chaos. Officers from different species ran between control stations. Warning lights flashed red and yellow. The main display showed tactical information that no one wanted to believe. Report. Captain Torres ordered as Marcus and Zarathek arrived. Commander Vex. A crystalline hegemony officer turned from his station. His gem-like face was dark with worry. Long-range sensors detected the object 6 hours ago. They came from the direction of dark space, moving faster than anything we have recorded. The main display changed to show a star map of the galaxy. Dark dots moved across it like a spreading infection. There were thousands of them. Size? Torres asked. The smaller objects are approximately 5 kilometers long, Vex replied. The larger ones are. He paused, checking his readings again. Captain, some of them are larger than moons. Dr. Kellix, the ship's medical officer, spoke up from another station. We are receiving reports from the outer colonies. 3 star systems have already gone silent. No communications, no sensor readings, nothing. Zarathik felt Marcus tense beside her. When she looked at him, she saw his hands clenched into fists. The air around him seemed to shimmer slightly, as if heat was rising from his body. Show me the tactical analysis, Torres said. New images appeared on the screen. They showed massive black shapes moving through space. The designs were strange and threatening. Long spines extended from central cores. Smaller ships swarmed around the larger ones, like insects around a hive. Computer analysis suggests these are artificial constructs, Vex continued. Possibly mechanical in nature. They do not match any known ship designs in our databases. But Marcus stepped forward. They match designs in human databases, he said quietly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. Torres frowned. Explain. Marcus stared at the screen for a long moment. These are Devour ships. We have seen them before. That is impossible, Commander Vex said. The Devourers have been gone for millions of years. No current species has ever encountered them. No current species except humans, Marcus replied. His voice was getting quieter, but somehow it seemed to fill the entire bridge. We fought them before. A long time ago. Torres stepped closer to Marcus. Engineer Chun, you are talking about events that happened millions of years ago. Humans have only been in galactic civilization for 500 years. Marcus turned to look at the captain. In his brown eyes, Zarthik saw something ancient stirring. Captain, there are things about human history that your databases do not contain. Before Torres could respond, the communications officer called out. Captain, priority message coming in from the Galactic Defense Council. The main screen changed to show Admiral Kess, the supreme commander of all galactic defense forces. The Admiral was a hegemony leader with crystal skin that normally gleamed bright blue. Now it was dim and gray with stress. To all ships in space, Admiral Kess said, we are facing an invasion by unknown forces. 3 core worlds have been attacked. Defense fleets are being destroyed faster than we can deploy them. The screen showed battle footage. Galactic warships fired their most powerful weapons at the Dark Devourer craft. The energy beams seemed to be absorbed harmlessly into the black holes. In response, the Devourer ship sent out waves of force that tore the galactic ships apart like paper. All available vessels are ordered to retreat to defensive positions around the core worlds, Admiral Cass continued. Civilian ships should evacuate to the outer rim immediately. The message ended. The bridge was silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Captain Torres turned to his crew. Set course for the outer rim. Maximum speed. But Marcus stepped forward. Captain, I need to send a message first. Engineer Chun, we do not have time. Captain, Marcus interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but now it carried a weight that made everyone stop what they were doing. I need to contact other humans. They need to know what is happening. Torres stared at him. You can contact other humans after we reach safety. No, Marcus said. It has to be now. Something in his tone made the captain step back. Zarthik noticed that the temperature on the bridge was dropping. Frost was beginning to form on the metal surfaces. Very well, Torres said slowly. Use the communications array. Marcus walked to the communications station. The officer there moved aside quickly, as if afraid to be too close to him. Marcus placed his hands on the controls. This is Marcus Chun aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge, he said into the transmitter. Authorization code? He paused and spoke a series of numbers and words in a language Zarthek had never heard before. He waited. Then a response came back, also in the strange language. Marcus listened, then spoke again. Finally, he switched back to standard galactic language. The long piece is ended, he said. The Watcher's warning has come to pass. All children of the exile must choose. The response was immediate and shocking. Across all human communication frequencies, voices began answering. Hundreds, then thousands, then millions of voices, all speaking in that ancient language that none of the other species understood. Marcus listened for a few minutes, then turned off the communicator. When he faced the bridge crew, he looked different. His eyes seemed brighter. His skin appeared to glow faintly. The air around him moved as if pushed by invisible currents. Captain, he said, I need you to change course. Take us to the nearest battle zone. Absolutely not, Torres said. My orders are to evacuate civilian vessels. Captain, Marcus said patiently, your orders assume that this is a normal military threat that can be fought with normal military means. It is not. Commander Vex stepped between them. Engineer Chun, you are out of line. Return to your station. Marcus looked at the crystalline officer. Commander, how many Devourer ships do you think it would take to crack a planet's crust? That is impossible, Vex said. No weapon can crack a planet. One ship, Marcus said. One Devourer ship can break a world apart. I have seen it happen. The bridge communications suddenly came alive with emergency signals. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Colony worlds going dark. Defense fleets destroyed. Billions of people fleeing in panic. Then came the worst news of all. Core world Centaurus Prime is under attack, the communications officer reported. The planetary defense grid is gone. The Devourer ships are firing on the planet's surface. On the main screen, they watched live feeds from Centaurus Prime. The planet had a population of 12 billion beings from dozens of different species. As they watched, beams of dark energy struck the world's surface. Where the beams hit, the ground simply disappeared, leaving behind holes that went down through the planet's crust. Estimate time until planetary core breach? Captain Torres asked quietly. The tactical officer checked his instruments. At current rate of fire, 4 hours until the planet breaks apart. Zarthik heard Marcus make a sound like a deep sigh. When she looked at him, she saw that his human appearance was beginning to crack. His skin seemed to shimmer and shift. His eyes were no longer brown, but looked like pools of starlight. I am sorry you have to see this, he said to her. But some wars can only be fought by monsters. He touched the communications control again. This time, he spoke only a few words in that ancient language. The response was immediate and terrifying. Across human space, emergency beacons began to activate. Ships that had been moving toward the outer rim suddenly changed course and began heading toward the battle zones. But these were not normal human ships anymore. On the tactical display, Zarthik watched human vessels transform. Their hulls split open to reveal crystalline structures underneath. Energy fields surrounded them that burned like miniature stars. They began moving at speeds that should have torn them apart. "What is happening to the human ships?" Captain Torres demanded. Marcus turned to face the bridge crew. His transformation was accelerating. His clothes were dissolving, replaced by what looked like living light. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the ship's hull sing in response. "The barriers are falling," he said. "My people are remembering what we really are." On the main screen, they watched the first human ship reach, Centaurus Prime. It was small compared to the massive Devour vessels attacking the planet. But as it approached, space itself seemed to bend around it. The human ship opened fire, but not with any weapon the galactic powers recognized. Pure force, shaped by will alone, struck the Devourer vessels. The ancient enemy ships, which had shrugged off the combined firepower of galactic fleets, suddenly found themselves being torn apart. More human ships arrived. The beings that emerged from them no longer looked human at all. They moved through space without protection, their bodies surrounded by fields of energy that warped reality. Some grew to enormous size. Others seemed to exist in multiple places at once. "Dear gods," whispered Commander Vex. "What are they?" Marcus turned toward the viewport. His transformation was almost complete now. When he spoke, his words made the very atoms in the air vibrate. "We are what you call us," he said. "We are the gods you worship. We are the monsters you fear. We are the force that shapes the universe." He looked back at Zarthik one last time. In his eyes, she saw infinite power, but also infinite sadness. "We are what we never wanted to become." On the screen, the battle for Centaurus Prime continued. The war lasted 3 days and changed the universe forever. Zarthik watched it all from the bridge of the Harmony's edge. Captain Torres had ordered the ship to remain at a safe distance. But safe had become a meaningless word. The battles were being fought across multiple dimensions of reality. Space itself was being rewritten. Marcus had vanished from the ship during the second day. One moment he had been standing on the bridge, his form shifting between human and something made of pure energy. The next moment, he was gone, leaving only a whisper of displaced air and the feeling that the universe had suddenly become larger. Through the ship's sensors, they tracked the progress of the war. Humans who had lived quiet lives as farmers, engineers, teachers, and shopkeepers were now fighting alongside beings of cosmic power. They moved through space like living storms. They reshaped matter with their thoughts. They spoke words that made stars burn brighter or dimmer according to their will. The Devourers had not expected this. For millions of years, they had consumed civilizations by overwhelming them with superior technology and numbers. But they had never faced opponents who could ignore the laws of physics. On the third day, Zarthik witnessed something that would be remembered for the rest of galactic history. Marcus appeared near Centaurus Prime, but he was no longer the man she had married. He had become something vast and terrible and beautiful. His form stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. His eyes burned like binary stars. When he moved, space-time rippled around him like water. The largest Devourer mothership, a construct the size of a small moon, turned its weapons toward him. Energy beams that could vaporize planets struck Marcus directly. He absorbed them all without harm, then reached out with one enormous hand and crushed the mothership like it was made of paper. But the true horror came when the remaining Devourer forces tried to retreat. Marcus spoke a single word in that ancient human language. The word echoed across all dimensions of reality. Every Devourer ship in the galaxy simply stopped existing, as if they had never been built at all. Then Marcus turned his attention to the damaged worlds the Devourers had attacked. He placed his hands over Centaurus Prime, where the planet's crust had been cracked open and billions had died. Life flowed from his fingers into the world below. Zarthik watched in amazement as the planet healed. The cracks in the crust sealed themselves. Destroyed cities rebuilt themselves from nothing. Even the dead began to return, as if time itself was running backward. When Marcus finished, Centaurus Prime was not just repaired. It was better than it had ever been. The air was cleaner. The oceans were purer. The forests were more vibrant. He had not just fixed the damage. He had perfected the world itself. Across the galaxy, other awakened humans were doing similar things. They restored destroyed colonies. They brought back extinct species. They turned barren worlds into gardens. But the cost of such power soon became clear. Of the millions of humans who had awakened to their true nature, many began to fade. Some dissolved into pure energy and disappeared into the cosmic background radiation. Others retreated into deep meditation states, their consciousness expanding beyond the ability to interact with the physical world. Some simply left, walking into the space between galaxies to explore realities that normal beings could not even imagine. The human ships that remained in normal space were changing too. As their crews evolved beyond physical form, the vessels became something between technology and living beings. They pulsed with organic light and responded to thoughts rather than controls. Captain, Torres received reports that entire human colonies had vanished, leaving behind only empty worlds covered in strange crystalline formations that hummed with barely contained energy. "They are transcending," Dr. Kellick said as he studied the sensor readings. "They are moving beyond physical existence entirely." Zarthik felt her heart break. Was this what would happen to Marcus? Would he become so powerful, so far beyond human understanding, that he would simply fade away into cosmic forces she could never touch? On the fourth day after the war ended, she had her answer. She was alone in their quarters, staring out at the stars when the air behind her shimmered. She turned and saw Marcus stepping through what looked like a fold in space itself. But he looked almost normal again. Almost human. He was quieter now, more distant. But when she looked into his eyes, she could still see the man she had married beneath the cosmic power. "Hello." "Zarthik," he said gently. She ran to him. And when he caught her in his arms, he felt solid and real and warm. But she could also feel the vast power contained within him, held back by tremendous effort of will. "I thought you were gone," she whispered. "I was," he said. "For a while, I was everything and nothing at the same time. I could see the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. I could reshape reality with a thought. Why did you come back?" Marcus smiled that gentle smile she remembered. "Because I made a promise. The marriage was real, remember? The peace was real." He led her to sit by the viewport. Outside, they could see human ships in the distance, but they moved slowly and carefully now, as if their crews were concentrating hard on maintaining physical form. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we try to put the masks back on," Marcus said. "We try to pretend to be mortal again, because the universe is not ready for gods. Can you do that? Can you go back to being human?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Not completely," he admitted. "None of us can. The barriers we built to contain our power have been broken. We will always be more than we were." He turned to look at her. "But we can choose to limit ourselves. We can choose to stay connected to the smaller world, to the people and things we love. And that is enough?" "It has to be," Marcus said. "Because the alternative is to become so powerful that we stop caring about anything mortal. And if that happens, we become no better than the Devourers we just destroyed." Over the following weeks, Zarthik watched as humanity slowly, carefully, began to pretend to be normal again. The gods who had reshaped reality with their thoughts went back to working in engine rooms and farms. The beings who had moved planets returned to their small apartments and quiet lives. But they were changed. All of them carried themselves differently now. They spoke more carefully, as if they were afraid their words might accidentally reshape the world around them. They moved more gently, as if they feared their touch might break everything they cared about. The galaxy was changed too. The other species looked at humans differently now. There was respect, but also fear. How do you make trade agreements with beings who could erase your entire civilization with a thought? How do you argue politics with gods who are pretending to be mortals? The Galactic Concord held emergency sessions to decide how to handle the new reality. Some species wanted to worship humans as saviors. Others wanted to exile them to prevent them from ever losing control again. But Marcus and the other awakened humans made the choice themselves. They announced that they would return to the frontier worlds, away from the core of galactic civilization. They would monitor the galaxy for threats, but they would not interfere in normal political affairs. "We are too dangerous to live among you," Marcus explained to the Concord, "but too concerned about your welfare to abandon you entirely." A new treaty was signed. Humanity would exist on the edge of galactic space, serving as guardians against cosmic threats. In return, they would limit their contact with other species to diplomatic missions like the one that had brought Marcus and Zarathic together. But for Zarathic and Marcus, the personal questions remained. They stood together on the observation deck of their new home, a small station at the edge of human space. Through the transparent walls, they could see stars that seemed to burn brighter when Marcus looked at them. "The marriage contract is fulfilled," Marcus said quietly. "The peace is secured. You could return to your people if you wanted. I would understand." Zarathic took his hand. It was warm and familiar, but she could feel the power flowing beneath his skin like liquid starlight. "Do you want me to leave?" she asked. Marcus looked at her with eyes that held infinite sadness and infinite love. "I want you to stay," he said. "But I am not the same person you married. I am something between human and God now. I could live forever, or I could fade into cosmic forces tomorrow. I do not know what kind of life I can offer you." Zarathic thought about everything they had been through together. The quiet months of learning to trust each other. The terror of discovering his true nature. The awe of watching him become something beyond mortal understanding. "I did not marry a human," she said finally. "I married Marcus Chun, the man who wanted peace more than power. The man who chose to limit himself rather than become a monster." She squeezed his hand. "That man is still in there, under all the cosmic power. As long as he is, I will stay." Marcus smiled, and for a moment he looked exactly like the gentle engineer she had first met. "Even if I am a god, pretending to be mortal?" "Especially then," she said. "Someone needs to remind you what mortality is worth protecting." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Around them, other awakened humans were building a new kind of civilization. They created art that existed in multiple dimensions. They grew gardens where flowers bloomed in colors that had no names.